31 July 2023, we will finish the report this month and take few hours to the next step. We considered the last 48 hours a procedure with a specific channel reservoir. I would say we use two mobiles and only have the access as communication using the signal as phone call. In Brazil, you can have the interference in a phone call since not made by abusive procedure. The procedure is illegal, but the act as phone call collective data is allowed by the Constitution. Our offenders sometimes are unable to understand this, the difference between a single act, a procedure as a sequence of acts, if it's ruled by criminal purpose and intent, as violence, and supporting the procedural decision as the organization of acts and procedure with a purpose as use of state power. If your goes by criminal purpose, you unveil the criminal users of state powers. That you threat your privacy, your property life, your stoned guarantees and interest on it. If you steal the signal of communication as data or replace this signal by a clandestine structure after have modified the authenticity at the operational system you have at your mobile or whatever, by fractal behavior and inference, because you are representing the interests of United States of America and Europe, especially Portugal, to apply consequence against the criminal offenders and use this intellectual asset against the criminal offenders to put them in a situation that can be refused to accept the consequence. After we have this, you observe that this pattern as organization, as clandestine thing, will go at your mobile, at your structure of communication, at your department, at your systemic organization of department ruled by criminal purpose until your entire conjuncture, setting, launching, offering big data, in general economic data, ruled by criminal purpose. It's a crime as itself in Brazil by Article 313A of the Brazilian criminal law, and will be evidenced by the conflict of interest or the embarrassing situation if you request an information or give 5 opportunities to the criminal system, presented as the domain of the entire Brazilian architectures, linked with peers by criminal purpose, have their reasons according with the law. Will violate your private space, your guarantees, and also the interest on it. We will steal your signal and also the elements, subject, and content on it. By the harassment made, you perpetrated also economic espionage criminal offense. And you only did this because you got sustained at your criminal purpose at department and companies, big corporations, by no dismiss. This warranty and this allowed you to obtain a tremendous illegal advantage. This warrant has the first gross salary 38 trillion as the entire result of criminal workflow at least since 1988. Consider the interaction through Brazilian public system with peers on it, all on body jet. And then we will have the dismissal list, and if it's not offered as we had down here, will be accepted the order to replace. This dismissal list by a judicial order or an institutional international order to put the criminal offenders out of the institution, interrupting the use of power and disrupting the criminal activity on departments and corporate offices. Having the prison research the value, having more prison, highlighting levels not unveiled or not revealed yet. We will observe that you must please take a look, and we are having, for instance, 15 days straight around the clock to work the warranty a bit more. And for sure we have serious issues. You will check that the violations perpetrated and suffered, affecting the interest on it, are protected by guarantees. According with the Constitution Article 5 clause or guarantee number 5 in Brazil, you will do the reciprocity and claim your compensation if you will suffer discrimination at the communication. And the communication after have the violation of a contract with the provider at Spain, Europe, to broke the contract or to broke the pattern of service, doing the discrimination as itself and inside the consumer market. By the law, it's told the discrimination as a vulnerable part at this relation. Not receiving the proper public service or having more easy ways to offer the proofs, but the opposite, all things much more complicated than the offenders receiving the proof turning to, or the complaint turning into in criminal intelligence to be used against you, can blame you. Only this hand as a state that must protect the family will act against the family. And now this conglomerate of distortions will put the deficit highlighted. The deficit at the public service suffered by the public departments, part of the public system, which integrate all things at the unique piece of control, budget used to transfer resources all around with no control at all, supporting and sponsoring the criminal activity in global scale, setting the guidelines of the transnational organized crime in Brazil by the protection of fake records, allowing the international order to read and say the Brazilian law, replacing the deficit to assume and continue or sustain the constitutional commitment on Article 4 clause or the rule number 9, which is the development of mankind. But how can you do this with such tremendous deficit in such basic and essential things, including the guarantees of your citizens and foreigners in Brazil? If you can violate this, as you told, you are not hurting me, but the law, the constitution, the guarantee by equity. You can do this against anyone, anything, protected by fake records, putting things in a ultimate level as criminal activity, as suggested at the new channel used in the last 48 hours, and declared that was a procedure. You did interference by a legal procedure, even as a collective phone call, which is according with the Constitution, but the procedure is told by the law as a crime. You probably will have something that must be exposed now, which is that the Brazil has no capacity to be according with the sovereignty and integrity that the nationals deserve, the people, the community. So in a short period, the warranty will probably handmade the architecture to seizure the money, and it is a legal result, have the offenders out of departments and offices, enact the prisons, the first thing. The other thing we will have, that's the bondage, dominance, submission, and the aim as mutilation or murder. As part of this architecture, show business phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 will have something new, which is probably the new information of the moment. And you will please have at this warranty, considering that the next 14 days you will not accept the more hoax and issues to put things lenient or delay the final order at these warranties and the main goals. The second thing, the first thing is why he was doing such a big scream against the seizure of criminal result, dismissal of criminals using the chairs, and do the prisons of this based on this dismissal list. The second, do not accept the arguments to be lenient, set confusing hopes, or put the warranties conclusion in a delay. You will have at the dismissal list and plea bargain and continue this after research the 38 trillions, having unveiled more heads, the relation between medical councils, especially static procedures, the criminal activity in the previous near past, like 3 years, which at the street, and the institutional corruption. Because when we are working the show business and we have the bondage, dominance, submission, and murder or mutilation, we have exponential behavior of violations and risks. We will observe that the static procedure can make a temporary modification of your face, which can be crossed, we will highlight, can be crossed with the collected data on departments ruled by corruption. And you can, for instance, have the situation here as the prostitution or something in a vulnerability as exploitation to be a center of interest as them all, like the medical procedure to change your appearance, the prostitution, and the fake records on departments with collective data, interference, simulation of use violating your personality, and collecting even individual traces like your thumbnails, your DNA, with heritage problems as observed on Europe, Eastern, and nowadays with the modified appearance to perpetrate as perpetrators of bondage, dominance, submission, and finally the mutilation and murder. The common element is the victim. We will have the interest as the individual traces as data bank, the procedure as static procedures, the criminal activity at the street that will put someone here, and can be even a big star or whatever, it doesn't matter, it's a victim. We worked in the very first moment with the special victims unit, and we requested the witness program to protect the victims, and it's applied on present time to the offenders doing the plea bargain, ultimate criminal activity, probably leading to ultimate heads on criminal scams that can be able to unveil not considered heads at the criminal scams, like people that you will be on the TV show or whatever. It doesn't matter who it is, or the big leader of a nation, or it's the ultimate things we will observe at this warrant crossing. Medical councils declaration as judicial order to be presented, recent prisons at the street, And the institutional corruption, which has the cross-cut between the three both the concurrent interest and the victim. The interest between A and C as the medical corruption and the department is in general do the integration between storage individual traces, setting a person for instance by modified appearance that do not exist using the traces, and he will be cases unsolved or impossible to be solved or have the declaration affecting the quality of the judicial power even as public service. I bet that America and Europe doesn't have the same interest as purpose, which we are boosting in Brazil to a situation that is named doom. They kind of has no scale. Peers on it, G20, at the warranty equally under the same constraints as Sager 38 trillion, dismissal list, prisons, research the values more prison. The corruption affect we all. Are you against? Have a great night. Report July over. See you on August. Few hours.